What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Shadow Shadnick, and today I've got a gameplay on the map Derelict from the Black Ops 6 beta. Now, don't make fun of me for how I pronounce that name. I don't know how it's actually pronounced. And I'm using the Jackal PDW, but before we get into the gameplay and my overall opinions on Black Ops 6 and the Black Ops 6 beta overall, I want to talk about the title of the video, which is the Chase Bank Fraud. Now, normally if you try to deposit a check of over $1,000, there's some sort of freeze or hold on that funds so that if that check bounces, you're not out on that money. Over the weekend, over Labor Day weekend, people with Chase bank accounts were going to their ATMs with checks that they were writing themselves for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. And what was weird about it was that Chase was allowing them to have access to those funds the very next day before the check would bounce. So what people were doing was they were going back to their ATMs and they were essentially just withdrawing tens of thousands of dollars of cash from their account, thinking that this was just a new move, thinking that this was just some sort of new bank glitch, that this was something that they could get away with. But in reality, it's just old school check fraud. This is nothing new. This has been happening since way before TikTok. The only difference is that people don't really do it that much because it's likely that you can get caught. Now, what happened was it was Labor Day, so the banks were closed, so people actually thought that they were somehow going to get away with it because their bank accounts didn't change. But come Tuesday, Wednesday, and now today, Thursday, people are checking their bank accounts and they're pretty much in the red for whatever they took out. So if you took out $30,000, you're now minus $30,000 on your Chase bank account, which is absolutely crazy because those people cannot pay that back. They can't pay that back. That's pretty much what people make in an entire year. So that's kind of the least of their worries, though, because Chase is one of the more reputable banks in America. They're one of the better banks in America. So you can't just kind of screw them over and not get away with it. What will happen is you'll try to open up another bank account because you completely moved your Chase bank account, but Chase is going to go to other banks and tell them what you did with them. They're going to say that, hey, so-and-so committed check fraud with us at Chase. Don't let them open up a bank account. So obviously now these people, they owe Chase $30,000. They can't open up a new bank account. This is just the least of their worries because what they've committed was check fraud, which is illegal. So now what they have to do is they're probably going to go to federal prison. I don't know how long they're going to be locked up for, but it's just crazy that you could go to jail for this. And you can go to federal prison for check fraud. To an extent, a very small extent, I sympathize with these people because America in times are tough. The economy is very rough right now in America. It's not easy to work and make a living. So a lot of people are more prone to want to believe that something like this is true, is real, that you can actually have some sort of bank glitch and that you can just print money. But in reality, the only way you can make money is actually getting hired by a job, working your hours, and waiting for the 2 weeks to the week for your direct deposit to hit. That's the only way you can actually make money. So to an extent, I kind of feel bad, but not really, because these people are getting what they deserve. This is just check fraud. This is nothing new. It's just something that people saw online over the weekend. It's probably had something to do with TikTok and the virality of it. You probably saw a few people withdrawing tens of thousands of dollars from their account and they wondered how they were doing it. And people are filming themselves talking about how they did it. They're filming themselves going up to the ATM and committing this check fraud, which is absolutely insane. But transitioning into Black Ops 6, the Black Ops 6 beta is here, and we had the first weekend, the early access weekend, this past weekend. Now, if you know anything about early access, it's to the people that pre-ordered the game or they had Xbox Game Pass. So it's really the sweatiest of the sweats that are really going to be playing the first early access weekend. It's not going to be people that you're going to see that are going to be very casual or console players. It's going to be a lot of content creators like myself. It's going to be a lot of streamers like myself, and it's going to be very sweaty, and the skill-based matchmaking is going to feel terrible. Now, weekend 2 is going to feel a lot better because it's going to be open to anybody that has the Call of Duty app downloaded. So the experience should be better for most people next weekend. But this past weekend, everyone was complaining about how sweaty it was. Now, for me personally, it wasn't that bad. And I think it was primarily because I played with at least one other player in my party the entire time. It was very rare that I queued in solo. And when I did queue in solo, I had a miserable experience. It was not fun playing by myself. I don't know what it is with the skill-based matchmaking and why it caters to one person within the party, but that kind of seems to be the case. I don't want to get too conspiratorial with the skill-based matchmaking, but again, for me, it was a lot easier. My eliminations to death ratio was a little bit higher in general, just because I was playing with somebody else in my party. So I generally had a good experience. So I initially was going to rate the overall beta experience like a 7 out of 10, but I've got to had to knock that down to like a 6.5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10, primarily because of what other people have been experiencing too, because Call of Duty is not just unique to my experiencing. What I experience isn't what everyone else is going to experience. My opinion is not going to be what everyone else is going to be opinionated on. I have to take into account what other people and what their experience is, what they're saying to me as well. And I kind of had to lower my grade because of that. So we're going to speak on the maps. We're going to start with the maps. The maps are not the worst in Call of Duty history, and it's definitely not the best in Call of Duty history. The map that I'm playing on right here, Derelict, is probably my favorite from the entire beta. There's some verticality to it, which I really, really like. There's some curve to it, but it's also kind of small, medium-sized map. It doesn't take forever to get to one side or the other, and I think it's going to play very excellent in Search and Destroy. So a polar opposite to this map, Derelict, is Skyline to me, which is my least favorite map of the beta. The only positive thing I can say about it is the fact that it looks nice. That's where the good things will end for me. I feel like it's a little bit too small. I feel like the engagements are a little bit too small. I feel like you spawn in, you take 2 steps forward, and then you die to somebody on some sort of head glitch. I feel like on some of the smaller maps in Call of Duty history, there's a little bit of space to kind of get into the engagement. Not that you're spawned in and then you kind of immediately got to sweat your balls off. So Skyline is one of my least favorite maps. Scud initially was one of my favorite maps, or one of my least favorite maps initially, because it was kind of, this game is very geared towards submachine gun, and I'm going to talk about the weapon balancing in a moment. But because the weapons are kind of geared towards submachine gun, a map like Scud, which is longer lines of sight, a bit bigger of a map, it's going to feel kind of clunky. But once I realized that the weapon balancing in this game is so bad, I actually tended to gravitate towards Scud because I was actually able to use other weapon classes, which is a breath of fresh air for this game. So Scud is kind of a mixed bag. Initially didn't like it, over time kind of grew to like it. It's kind of the opposite with Rewind. For me, Rewind initially I really liked it because of the aesthetic, the way it looked. I really like that you're on like a strip mall set in the 90s. It really reminds me of the Pines map from Cold War, which I desperately hope they remake for this game. But I really like the aesthetic, but after having played it over time, I kind of tend to gravitate against it because it has some long lines of sight on the outside, but then the insides of the buildings are a little bit tight, so it's kind of difficult to know which type of weapon to kind of use on that map, because it's like a submachine gun works well for the buildings, but then when you're outside you kind of want an LMG or assault rifle. So mixed bag with that map. So overall the maps are kind of mixy. I don't know, I feel like they're okay, but we're gonna get 16 maps at launch, so we're gonna have to really see how the maps play out. But overall the beta, the maps are just kind of a bag. The weapons, moving on to the weapon balancing, it's absolutely terrible. The only gun you want to be using really is the Jackal PDW. And that's the weapon I'm actually using in the beta here. The blueprint that they give you with the Mastercraft blueprint isn't really great for the iron sights, but the actual base blueprint for the iron sights is absolutely spectacular. That's what everyone was using. It looks like the AK-74U. It has submachine gun sprint to fire speed and sprint speed, but it's got assault rifle level damage and damage range. So they got to nerf that. They got to touch the weapon balancing. Again, that's why a map like Scud didn't feel so great initially, because I was running around with the PDW initially. Then when I was trying to spread out my weapons a little bit, Scud became a lot more attractive because I could use an XMG or an XMG on that map. So they actually have to do something with the weapon balancing. They are going to actually release new weapons this weekend, weekend 2, as well as a few new maps, I believe, as well. So we're going to get some new content for the second weekend of the beta. We'll see how that plays out. We'll see how the hopefully lessen skill-based matchmaking, just because it's not going to be just streamers and content creators playing. We'll see how all that mixed bag feels next weekend, and I'll do another updated review on the beta then. But for now, I got to give it pretty much like a 6.5 out of 10. It's a little bit lackluster from my initial experience because it's just, I was in the honeymoon phase. And why was I in the honeymoon phase with this? It's mainly because of the movement, and I didn't even delve into that. The movement is absolutely spectacular. The Omni movement is everything that has been as advertised. I knew that when they first announced it, that it was going to be something that I had to get my hands on to kind of really give a feel for what Omni movement was. And I absolutely love it. I love that they didn't take any movement from what we had last year. They just built upon it. And the best part about the Omni movement is you don't even have to use it to be successful. When you're dolphin diving and max panning around corners in this game, you actually have some sort of an accuracy. You don't want to be doing it all the time. You actually kind of want to do it when you actually want to catch your enemy off guard. So you don't have to use the Omni movement, and it really reminds me of Black Ops 3. In Black Ops 3, it was a jetpack Call of Duty, but you didn't have to use the jetpack advanced movement system. You didn't have to use the wall running to be successful. You could actually use none of it and just play normal Call of Duty and be successful. And I really like that. That's what they did with the movement. So again, we'll see how the weekend 2 plays with the changes that they're hopefully going to make. I'm going to put another video out on the channel, kind of delving into the changes and then my overall opinion. But I'm still excited for the game when it comes out in October. Still excited for zombies. I'm still excited for the campaign and everything that it has to offer. And again, we'll be streaming the game at launch, and we'll be streaming the weekend too. So if you did like what you liked in the commentary here, please give me a like down below. It could be about the Chase Bank scam. It could be about Black Ops 6. Anything, we're here for it. I am streaming on your favorite streaming platform Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, starting at 12 p.m. Eastern time, going until usually around 8 or 9, sometimes 10 o'clock. And other than that, I am out. Peace.
What do you hit when you get behind them?
You just double tap
your melee.
you hit him 2 times with it, you know what I mean? And then you start whispering sweet nothings into their ear. Like this guy. I'm gonna bend you over this fucking desk.
He's waiting for me to be fighting the child.
Is that me? Oh, that's the.
Oh, that's the.
That was the kill. That's where y'all all got bodied right there.
You can
got
see me.
set for that.
You can see me in the kill cam fucking it. You can
got
see me.
set for that.
You can see me in the kill cam fucking it.